Hello, friends. I'll talk to you in just a minute. Hang on, I'm too busy painting. Hang on, hang on, hang on. Well, good morning. As perhaps you could see by the title there, I've changed the name of this layer, this phase, to more accurately reflect the reality, which is, it's been this way for a while. I just haven't changed the name of it. So I hope to rectify that here today. This is broken color and also in addition to that, pushed color. I hope you understand what I mean by pushed color. That means I'm taking what's already on the canvas and just exaggerating it. That's a good way to put it. Exaggerated color for those non-artists. All right. Whoa, look at here. I'm about to do my clapper. And when I went there, the clapper was bare. Anyway, so this is 794 broken color, B-R-O-K-E-N color plus pushed color. And today is, I think, the 18th. So there we go. Now it's official. By the way, do you guys know why? Not I'm doing it because I'm just silly. I'm just doing it for fun. But do you know why in a real studio why they do that? It's because that sound creates a peak on their, these days, on their digital sound wave, a real clear click, and that allows them to sync that up with the visual, so it's perfectly synced. I don't know if you find that interesting or not, but that's why they use those clappers. All right, let me tell you a little bit. I said that in a strange manner, didn't I? Let me tell you a little bit about this painting and what I've done, because I've actually been working on it for a little while already this morning. And I've done some experimentation, did something I've never exactly done before. But I'll tell you what it is. So not at Art of the Carolinas, hold it together, Nelson. Try to talk or paint, but do one or the other well. Oil paint. Art of the Carolinas is like a trade show, big art trade show. And one of the best things about it, everything's on sale, and the representatives from all the art companies are there. So it's a good time to try stuff. So I bought a tube of transparent marble white. Now, once again, whoever made that word transparent, it was not an English major. The word, what they really mean to be saying is translucent, but that's all right. Who's quibbling besides me? Anyway, be that as it may, translucent white and translucent marble white. So we'll see. I won't really be able to see the effect until this dries, but I'll tell you what I did with their paint. It actually is quite translucent. Translucent. I'm sure that's another helpful word. It looks white when it comes out of the tube, but when you spread it on the painting, it actually turns quite transparent. So maybe that's why they called it that, eh? Anyway, so I scumbled. No, scumble is not the word, because scumble infers essentially a dry brush technique. I don't know if you know that or not. So, and this was not dry brush. This was quite sloppy wet brush. Brush is another word for brush from the Latin. Never mind. I can't. I'll quit right there. I can't. In order to pull off a joke, you have to be able to pull it off. And I'm not good at pulling off jokes, so I'll just abandon it right there. To blade, which means to bluff. All my fellow Princess Bride fans, we'll get that one. So anyway, I have lightened in a fuzzy, translucent, but wet way much of this canvas without your company. I know it's a lot of nerve for me to do that, for me to paint without broadcasting. What is the world coming to? So I've lightened the sky, lightened in here, lightened here, 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 here. Anyway, pretty much the whole canvas, except for the dark areas. And then I discovered that after I put down this transparent marble white, I can scratch through it to quite delightful effect. It really takes scratching very well. It makes scratching show up quite nicely. Right now I'm doing some anti-scratching with my finger. And back to the product, it's called Marble White, which they told me that it actually has, as you might imagine, crushed marble in it, which gives a bit of a sparkle. Now, frankly, I can't really see that sparkle right now, but I think it's probably because everything's wet. I don't know. We'll see. So I don't think they were pulling my leg. I'm sure that it does have a sparkleish effect. All right, let's stop talking about that product and let's move on to broken color and pushing color. So part of the time here I'm going to be doing broken color, which I've defined so many times, right, as same in value as what's already there on the canvas, same value, but a contrasting color. And other times I'll be doing what is already on the canvas, but I'll be pushing it. Let's go back to purple, violet, whatever. So very typically when I start my broken color phase, and by the way, you see by the title there that I think, and I'm not sure, but I think this is layer number 18 on this painting. And I called it in Dan Nelson's, or Dan's, ever-evolving technique. That is certainly true. And I hope your technique is ever-evolving as well. Maybe even I'm a part of your evolution. That would be fine. But I'm certainly always pushing the envelope a little bit, trying something new. As I did just a few minutes ago when I was using this new product. It's the third time I've used it actually, but I have never used it to the extent or the degree that I did just a few minutes ago on this painting. All right, I'm adding some white. I had purple on my brushes, and I'm adding white and a little bit of permanent rose. So I have, yeah, a dirty light purple. And the paint that I'm using right now is about a number 4 value on a 0 to 10 grayscale, about a number 4, just slightly lighter than middle. So that's what my eye is, scanning the painting, looking for places where there's already a number 4 value. And then that's a good place to sneak in this reddish purple. All right, that's enough of that though. Let's, let me think. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep on going around the color wheel that way. Started out with violet and then got reddish violet. Let's add more red to this. So now I've got kind of a plum or a cranberry. Again, those are not artist colors. That's a decorator color, you know. I never know what to call these things because I don't memorize decorator colors very well. But yeah, I think dirty plum is dumb, of course. That's the name of that color. Or a dirty raspberry. Hello, Monique. Thank you. Glad you like it. Uncle 60. Are you serious? Reading the Constitution. Wow. And IL Art, good to hear from you again. And what is your focal point? And Uncle says, I saw the SUV first. I was aware of that first, then the garage over here, then the top center, then the buildings on the left. So you kind of went this way. Maybe it's, and that, I'm okay with that. I actually tried to push the SUV back just a tiny bit when I was doing the, what's it called? Transparent marble white, this stuff. Because I did quite a bit here and fuzzed out, made more glow to soften the edges. I think it's all right. You ask a very good question. I think the focal point is right here, really. Contrast, color, and detail. But there's no question that this car is getting an awful lot of attention. Now, I think the path, Uncle, that you just laid out is really, I think that's probably, I'm doing the same thing. I think probably here, quick glance here, just a real quick bounce, boom, boom, then hang out here for a while, then here. That is interesting. I don't know, is there a rule? There probably is. This would be a good David Dunlop question. If you don't know David Dunlop, he is a friend of mine. We painted together in France about 10 years ago. Now that right there, that makes me sound like a big shot. So I'm just going to leave it right there. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a big shot. I hope you recognize sarcasm when you hear it. Anyway, we did paint together, and it had a great time. And I get to see him at least for a second every year at Art of the Carolinas. Anyway, look up David Dunlop. He's a very, very, very brainy painter. Very, very smart, academic. He's a very good painter, period. But he does a lot of like academic research. And my question is, does it make any difference whether our eye goes in a clockwise or counterclockwise? And I think, and Uncle, I think you're right. I think what is happening is this is so prominent and a lot of contrast, and the car's going that way. So our eye naturally goes that way instead of that way because the car's going that way, right? So, but I don't know if you know, like I said, that would be a good David Dunlop question. I'm going to try to remember that and shoot him a text or an email or something. That is the kind of stuff that he researches. He looks at all the studies that have been done about eye movement. He's a very interesting guy. We had a great time together. We didn't agree about everything. That was great fun. I'm completely serious. But we certainly had a good time together. All right, I'm going to leave this dirty plum. Let's wipe off my brushes. Let's go around, further around the color wheel. So picking up some, I guess some Scarlet Lake and a little bit of white. I didn't clean my brushes well, so the color I have on my brushes now is a, if you could picture a red terracotta, picture terracotta and then add a little bit, which is already a red color, and then push the red in that. That's about the color that's on my brushes right now. So not a bright red, but it's going to look pretty bright simply because it's so contrasty. Ooh, that was a nice mark. Do you know that feeling, by the way, every once in a while, and I'll show you, I'll zoom in here just for a second. You know, as painters, we're always trying to predict the future, right? We say, you know what, I think it's going to look good if I do this or that stroke. I hope it's going to look good if I put this mark here. Well, I just put, there's a dot and a dash and a bit of a dot right there. I did it because I thought it might look good. And then sometimes after you do it, you go, ooh, like I did just then, like, ooh, that looked good. Now, I wish I felt that way about every single mark I ever made. That's a pretty high bar, isn't it? What I'm doing right now, by the way, is pushing color. There's already little bits of red in here, and I'm pushing it. Hey, here's another. I don't know if I've ever said it this way. I've alluded to it, but let me spell this out carefully. One of the little specific tricks, I'll call it that, one of the specific tricks that you can pull to spark aesthetic pleasure in the mind of your viewer, which is, in my opinion, that's what visual art is about. We're in the business of trying to elicit or create something in the brain, in the mind. I do believe there's such a thing as a mind. If you don't, then blah, 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 blah. If you don't believe such a thing in the mind, then what I just said makes just as much sense to you as what I'm saying right now. There's no way around that. Anyway, we are in the business of trying to elicit an aesthetic. And you please understand that by saying this, I am diametrically opposed to virtually every art professor in virtually every university in the Western world in the last 100 years. Okay, so how on earth can I be so arrogant? Well, we've talked about this before. I am that arrogant, and I'm convinced I won't live to see it, but my grandchildren might, when virtually the entire Western world will come to agree with me. But anyway, let's get back. How quickly we turn to the dark side, eh? All right, I got an interruption there. Are we back now? All right. I was going to talk about a trick for eliciting an aesthetic response in the mind of your viewer. All right, here it is. You want all your colors to be a combination of under and over. You don't just want all your colors to be over colors. Now what I mean by that is you don't want, now this is, again, this is in my opinion, okay? In my humble, which ain't really so humble, as you just heard, in my humble opinion, you want as many colors as possible to be the result of a mashup between undercolors and overcolors. I've never said it this way before. This is brilliant. I hope you're paying attention. And by the way, this is part of the reason why I broadcast so darn much, is because you've all heard the teacher learns more than the student. Well, that's what I'm doing. I broadcast because I teach, and I teach because I learn a lot while I'm teaching. So I've never said it this way before. And every once in a while, I'll say something like this that that really sticks and becomes a permanent part of my conscious awareness of how to paint good. So I have no idea if what I'm saying now will be such a thing. It doesn't matter, not my job to know whether it's brilliant or whether it's just a one-shot deal. Here's one of the ways. Okay, by the way, let me keep painting while I talk. I'm going to continue around the color wheel. So mixing up now a brighter red. So you want as many colors as possible in your painting to be, there's a word I'm looking for and it's escaping me, but anyway, I said mashup a minute ago. That conveys close enough. To be a combination of underpainting that is showing through and overpainting that cooperates, conflicts, meshes with the underpainting. Hang on just a second, I have to change my in-ear monitor. I'm adding more white to this, so now I've got a warm red, kind of salmon-ish color. All right, so I'm going to just try to restate that one more time. Just one of the tricks that we employ as artists in order to elicit, to create beauty is a word we could use. I've been saying to elicit a positive aesthetic experience in the mind of our viewer is we want, I'm going to exaggerate and say all the colors on our canvas, that might be an exaggeration, but virtually all the colors on our canvas, we want them to be a collusion between colors that are underneath peeking through and colors that are on top that you can see through. All right, enough of that. I'll wipe off my brushes again. I think I'm ready to go all the way to a straight up orange now. Again, doing two things in this layer. I am doing broken color, which means same value but different color from what's on the canvas. And in addition to that, pushed color. That is exaggerated color. So now I have orange, so putting a bit of orange there, that's exaggerated color. Putting orange right here, that's broken color. It was blue, now it's orange. But the blue peeks through, right? You can still see. I'm thinking what I just said, forgive me while I self-absorb here for a minute. I'm thinking what I just said might stick around. That's a good understanding of good painting. Forgive me, because of that, I'm going to try to say it one more time. I still don't have the missing word. I used collusion. But every painting, every color in your painting is the result of mashup. I'll come up with the better word later sometime. Between undercolors and overcolors. And that quite clearly explains why I am not a fan of traditional opaque out of the tube painting. Why I'm such a fan of transparent and translucent. In a way, what I'm saying is flies or mitigates against opaque painting. Because the real beauty in painting, same thing, different words now, the real beauty in painting consists in the tension, that's a good word, not the word I've been looking for, but it'll do, between overcolors and undercolors. Okay, I'm going to zoom in again. I should have had, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I have this pumpkin orange color on my brush, and I just put down that mark right there and a little bit right there and there and there. But this brown orange right there is underneath. I don't know how far down, doesn't matter, but it's coming from underneath. And those two, and the one I just put on top, of course, is lighter. As always, that's the rule. And those two colors are playing with each other. And I think that is beautiful, to use, you know, dangerous and lay people language. It does also beg the question, doing orange in a blue sky, am I doing pushing color or broken color? Well, the answer is both, because there's already some orange up there from some of the underlayers. So who knows? I don't care. But the fact is, it looks really good, in my humble opinion. All right. You should watch this guy. He's so dang humble. You just can't believe. Dan Nelson, humble painter. Humblepainter.com. I wonder if anybody owns that. Last night, when I was relaxing, after all the trumpet practicing was done, and the kids had gone to bed, and I was just relaxing, I watched a YouTube video on my TV of some Russian guy who was doing, oh my goodness, realistic sort of romantic landscape, you know, just everything. The exaggerated atmospheric perspective. I'm not criticizing this, by the way. It is what it is. But you know, the sunset, the mountain, the lake, the eagle in the sky, the whole thing, everything. He was not at all in the business. He was not an abstract realist. He was a realist. All right, I think I've done enough, maybe too much orange. Let's continue around the wheel now. Uncle, the circular rule. Bring the eyes from focal point, then around, then around. Aha, chaos goes to the left, peace and tranquility goes. Did you just look that up, or did you just make that up? Or is this part of your walk around body of knowledge, Uncle? That's very good. I think it's correct. Now, here's a really good question. Do we, in the West, generally, is this peace because that's the way we read? Then going against that is tension, chaos, you call it. But if you're Jewish, you read this way. So is it the opposite? Is it the other way around for people who speak and read Hebrew? I don't know. I have wondered that before. I know in the little bit that I remember reading about this subject, the direction that we read and write, is in fact related to our experience of a painting. So it is related, I'm sure of that. And Uncle, I think what you just mentioned, I think is part of that we peace to the right, tension or chaos, as you say, to the left. I have right on my brushes right now a bright yellow. And that's enough of that. That's, a little bright yellow goes a long way. So I'm just going to pick up some green. Now I've got a very bright chartreuse green. I don't know if there's anywhere on this canvas that can handle bright green or not. There's some red marks up here I don't like. Fortunately, they're still wet, so I can scratch through them. Now I like it. I do wonder sometimes if I'm going overboard on this broken color thing. I really do. I wonder if I'll rein it back in a little bit in the months, days, months, years to come. There's no question what I'm doing adds an awful lot of energy to my canvas. Whew. And for a guy whose favorite colors are gray and brown, this is downright courageous. And it may be courageous to the point of foolhardy. I don't know. I do wonder. But I'm going to keep on at the moment because I think it's a good thing. Even though I just admitted to you that I have pause. Aha, let's do a little bit. Not all the broken color, and this is one of my weaknesses, I think, in the broken color realm. The broken color does not need to be, and should not be, most of it hard edge. A lot of it can be soft edge. Probably most of it should be, as you know, like that right there. So is that an improvement or not? I'm going to leave it for now. Another question that I ask inside, and I'll answer it for you. When you're doing the broken color, is it legal, quote unquote, to put down a broken color and then do a second broken color on top of that? And my answer is absolutely yes, 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 yes. So for instance, just a little while ago, I put orange up here in these distant trees. Now I'm coming back and doing green on top of the orange. So it's like a broken color of a broken color. And yeah, in fact, in light of the insight that I just came to awareness of this morning, that would certainly make sense. That is the awareness that a significant part of what creates an aesthetic response in the mind of the viewer is that all the colors in a painting are a product of a mashup between all the colors that are underneath and all the colors that are on top. So the fact that I did green, then orange, then green again fits that description perfectly. I'm going to do just a little bit of rag painting. I want a cleaner rag though, softer one. You know, these cotton rags, you use them after a while, they become stiff with paint. So I want to find a rag that's not dirty. I'm just going to smear around a lot of the broken color that I've just done in the last several minutes. Softer edges. And it's working, it really smears well because, as you may recall, before I started broadcasting today, I spent no little time doing this transparent marble white over much of the canvas. So the canvas is quite wet. I don't know if you can tell that or not. What I'm doing right now is, in fact, a part of a fairly recent development in my painting toolbox. I think I mentioned this last week, sometime in the last several days, that I think one's default practice, I say this advisedly, you know, I'll say it, I'm not sure it's true, but I think one's default setting, default practice should be put down color, put down paint marks with a brush, say, palette knife, anyway, I'm not being fussy about how you put it down, but after you've put it down, go back and mess with it. Don't just be content with, so to speak, the first pass. Does that make sense? So what I'm doing right now is certainly an example of that. And yeah, it just got better. I just softened a bunch of stuff. Okay, is there anywhere else where I really should do some? Yeah, that was nice. Again, as artists, we're always trying to predict the future. We're always saying, I think it'll look good if I do this or that. And then we do it. And then we either cheer or cry, one or the other. HumblePainter.com is open. Dan at HumblePainter.com. My rant page. Oh, that's hilarious. Thank you, Uncle. Well, Uncle, but wait a minute. Cars don't always float to the right. Well, if you're in England, anyway, never mind. All right, so I'm going to continue around the color wheel now. So I've done, how about some dark green? I very rarely do a really dark green. I'm going to make it a little bit dirty green. So I've got sort of a dark and dirty viridian green. But it's opaque. Okay, so I'm allowed, just be clear, make sure you understand this. This is about a number 7 or 8 on a 10-degree gray scale. I'm allowed, so to speak, I'm allowed to put it anywhere on the canvas where there's, let's say it's a 7.5, okay? I'm allowed to put this anywhere on the canvas that is anything north of 7.5, anything darker than 7.5. So I can put it on it. Anything that's an 8 or a 9, certainly 10. I don't think there's any 10s on this canvas. All right, does that make sense to you? that is, and I don't usually use dark green in dark areas. I'm finding it quite fetching. It's like, oh, because green is an aggressive color, comes toward the viewer, but here I am using it in a very recessive manner in dark areas. That's interesting. So there's a little bit of push and pull happening there. That's kind of fun. Let's do some on this car. It would be, here we go again. I need to move my paint tray out of the way because I can't hold my brush in the appropriate manner when there's stuff here in the way. Does that make sense? Let's paint left-handed. I trust myself more. I trust my intuition. Isn't that funny? I admit, I'll be the first to admit that is really crazy. But I trust my intuition more when I'm painting with my left hand than my right. Because my right hand is my control side. My left side, my left hand, my right brain is that is nice. Hot dog. Wow. That's almost worthy of an entry into my diary there, ladies and gentlemen. What is? It is using a very dark green in dark areas. Now, I'm going back now to, I just added, whoops, it's too dark. I just added some purple to my dark green. So I've got a purplish gray because I don't want to make this tire the same color as the, say, the bumper. Well, here, now I'm doing it anyway. So ignore the man behind the camera curtain there. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so again, what you're hearing, it's not an artist bragging. And I know I say this a lot because it's so true. When you hear an artist like I just did going, wow, that looks good. That goes along with, we're all trying to predict the future, right? We put marks down hoping it'll look good. And then sometimes it does. And it's perfectly appropriate for the artist to go, wow, because I'm expressing delight and surprise, not arrogance. It's not like, dang, I'm good. I'll put that on my humbleartist.com website. But no, that is, you know this, you fellow artists, you know this. And by the way, more of you struggle with beating yourself up than arrogance is not your problem. Proudly joining the human race is closer to your problem, because that's where most people live. Most people need love. I'm sorry. And I only say it in that strange way so I don't sound like I've all of a sudden got ridiculously sappy. It is nonetheless true. I know what you need. All you need is love. Da, 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 da. All you need is love. All you need is love. They were right about that, actually. Them darn Beatles. They got some stuff right. Got some stuff really wrong, but it's just like all the rest of us. I got some stuff right. All right, now what's on my brushes right now is a brown, dull brown, just a dull brown. So it can go anywhere. I am really tickled about this, what just happened on this car though, where I did, again, dark green. And go back and repeat. So the green color paint, the green mix that I had on my brushes was, I'm going to say, a 7.5 on a 10-degree gray scale, right? White to black is pretty dark. That means I can put that anywhere on my canvas that is darker than that. You understand, if I were to put that opaque, because it was opaque, it had a tiny bit of titanium white in it. If I were to put that, a dab of that anywhere on the painting where it was lighter than that, that would appear as mud. And again, if you don't understand what I'm saying, then hang up here, go do it you search for Dan Nelson Mud, not Dan Nelson whose name is Mud. No, just Dan Nelson Mud, and you'll find 11-minute video where I have done my best description of what constitutes mud, and we've talked about that quite a bit. There is some disagreement. I don't want to go into it right now. All the disagreements have confirmed that my thesis is correct, after much consideration, by the way, of those who have disagreed with me. I've given them very serious contemplation. There are several other definitions of mud. None of them are worth our attention, because all the other definitions of mud, I just put a dumb look on my face and say, well, don't do that. Yeah, does that make sense? All right, it's time for blue. Woohoo! Woohoo! Blue, broken color blue. That is. So I have not cleaned my brushes very well, just a little bit, and mixing up a bunch of stuff. So I have on my brushes right now mostly a dirty phthalo blue. It's about a number 5 value, very mid-tone, right in the middle. So I'm looking either for areas that are already blue and should be pushed. That would be pushed color. I'm looking for areas that are not blue, but they're about a number 5 value. And I put this down there, and then it becomes a broken color. And broken colors, of course, twinkle, flicker. I've talked about that quite a bit. I'm not going to repeat it right now. Broken colors flicker in the view, in the mind of the viewer. This stroke right here, well, in fact, I'm going to do it with a palette knife. This is not broken color, this is pushed color. And even pushed value a little bit. Ooh, that was nice. It's nice when you get more oohs, that's nice, than you do, ooh, that wasn't so good. It really is nice when you get more of those. I'm laughing at you, Uncle. She always turns right till I get home. And yes, your YouTube contributions are tax deductible. Wait, are you a professional artist so you can claim it as a business deduction? Or if you can do it if I am a 501c3. If I have, which in fact I do, but it's not my art page. Not my art business. It was separate. That's another story altogether. Oh, I do like the little bit of blue that I've just done. But I feel like it's might be enough. I'm going to pick up some ultraviolet and some raw umber, my go-to color killer, right? My favorite tube of paint for pushing back, diminishing color is raw umber. Black would do the same thing, but I don't. Anyway, for me, raw umber takes it in a slightly warmer direction. I wouldn't want to kill my colors most of the time by moving them cool, like I think an ivory black would. I always get mixed up. Mars black, ivory black, carbon black, and I'm missing a couple. You know, you can Google which ones are cool and which ones are warm. And I don't remember, but you can Google that. Anyway, black is too powerful, too strong for killing color. Kills it too much, too far. Pushes it too far down. So I find the raw umber, and for that matter, student grade raw umber, to be ideal for pushing down color, diminishing it. What I mean is you've mixed up a color and you feel like it's just about perfect. Oh, but it's just a little bit too intense, a little bit too high chroma. What do you do then? Now, my answer is you mix a little raw umber in it, and then it'll be just right. By the way, I haven't talked about this in quite a long time. This is far and away my favorite palette knife. I have scores of palette knives, as maybe you do, but this is my favorite, and for a real simple reason. It has 3 distinct lengths, straight, short, medium, and long. Long, medium, and short. So when I'm making lines, it gives me 3 options, which I find very helpful. I do use all 3 of those lengths. Again, I'm still using a dirty blue on my brushes, doing both broken color and pushed color. So theoretically, when I finish this blue, I will be done with the broken slash pushed color layer, because I started with purple and went red that direction and went all the way around the color wheel, right? So I'm all the way back to purple again because I'm using blue right now. But I could, of course, I can go back and do anything I want. But brown might be a good possibility. Let me step back from my canvas. By the way, I did make an adjustment here. I've discovered in the last couple of days that, let me show you what I'm doing here. Here's the light that's over me. It's a, store-bought, I forget what Kelvin number it is. It's fairly cool. Anyway, this is the way I've been painting, but here in the last day or two, I've discovered that bounce it off the ceiling, because it was too bright, and I would take my paintings elsewhere in the house and discover that they were too dark because I'd painted them in too intense of a light. So now that will work here today because I've got all kinds of sunlight indirect through the Venetian blinds coming into my studio from the windows. So all those are variables, of course, that everything has to be taken into account. When in doubt, scribble. Tiny bit of mud right there because I put down a mark on some light area. But I'm going to keep it because it looks good. Why? Because every rule can be broken. You just need to know when to break it. And the answer is when there's a mitigating rule, when there's something else, when it works for some other reason, even though technically it's against the rule, for some reason it works. And that just looks like a patch of scaly paint or something on the building. It just works. I don't recommend it, usually, as you know, but sometimes it works. There's a beautiful little bit of, here's a good example. That orange right there and there I can see that it was a stroke that went this way, and I think this way at some point. I have no idea at what point in the underpainting. But if you can see this, let me pick you up for just a minute. Right, hang on. Let me go to wide angle. There we go. You see that? In my opinion, that little passage right there is a good example of good painting. And I'm certainly not bragging now because I didn't do it on purpose. It happened accidentally as a result of a process. So I did, in fact, set up a process by which happy accidents like that can take place. So I'll take credit for that. But really, that's not much credit. I set up an environment in which nice painting can happen. That's a good way to describe my entire approach to painting. Is I don't force the painting to become good. I just try to set up a process, an environment where, lo and behold, wow, how did that happen? A good painting resulted. Okay, again, that's a pretty good description of my approach to painting. I don't force it to happen, like the man I was watching last night that I watched for an hour, mostly at high speed, him doing a pretty big 30 by 40 inch painting, something like that, of this beautiful, beautiful mountain, sunset, lake, and so forth. He was forcing, with every brushstroke, forcing the beautiful painting to come into existence. And I can respect that. I just don't want to do it, as you can tell. I don't, because when the finished painting is the result of everything, of stuff that came out of your head, in my opinion, almost by definition, it's a weak painting because the whole thing came out of your head. There are no transcendent surprises on the canvas. And the really good stuff in painting, in my humble opinion, humbleartist.com, in my humble opinion, the great painting, every great painting has a whole, if it reaches the realm of, I'm going to use this spooky word, if it reaches the realm of the transcendent, then it got there in spite of the artist, not because of the artist. Whew. There we go. Right, that's what I believe. I don't think I've ever said it quite that way, but in case you ever wonder what Dan Nelson believes. There you go. That's what I believe. If a painting, and this goes for everybody, Rembrandt, Jackson Pollock, whoever, Picasso, if it's a great painting, it is so not because it all came out of the artist's puny little head, but because somehow the artist managed to tap into a dimension or a reality. I know I'm getting really spooky here. I'm going to trigger some of you guys. I don't want to do that really. But it tapped into a dimension, if you will, that goes beyond the artist's, including my puny little brain, right? So that was really, that mindset 15 years ago is what propelled me into the second half of life painting. I've said, in other words, I've said it before, once I really discovered and believed, was completely convinced that the best painting actually happened while I was trying hard to do something else. Once I discovered that was really true and believed it, then I said, oh, what the heck? I'll do everything, always paint everything else. And that is, perhaps you will concur, that's a fair description of the way Dan Nelson paints. The way I hold the brushes, the way I treat the color, everything I do is almost, except when I'm doing portraits, like this, you know that. That's a different animal. In a portrait, it has to look like the person. So until I'm as good as, say, John Singer Sargent, which I ain't yet, just in case you wondered, until I'm as good as him, I have to employ control freak painting in order to achieve a likeness on a small portrait. The smaller the portrait, the harder it is, by the way. That's a little bit of defensiveness speaking there, wasn't it? I'm sorry. Don't let it happen again. I am quite enjoying this at the moment. A pretty neutral gray. I've got about a number 4 or 5. Cool gray, I guess I'd call it. If you want another pigeonhole to slam me into, here's one. This is one that I will admit to. In several respects, I paint like the old masters, like Rembrandt, Rubens, you name it. In several respects, I paint like those old guys. In that, and here's in that I build up layer upon layer upon layer of essentially transparent underpainting, and then finish with opaque color on top, thick opaque color on top. Okay, Rembrandt and et al. I didn't mean to say and et al. It just changed midstream from English to Latin. You know, all the smart people do that. All the smart people, when we want to sound smart, we start speaking Latin. So it's real easy to be smart. Just learn a few Latin phrases. That's all you need to do. Anyway, Rembrandt et al. So in that regard, I paint like all the old masters. In this regard, I paint differently from most of the old masters. Okay, so here's how I'm different. Most of them, Rembrandt especially, his underpainting was mostly muted earth tones, like burnt sienna and stuff like that, umber underneath, and then brighter colors on top. I hope you go, oh yeah, that's right, that is the way he painted, right? And I, just because I have a screw loose, I tend to do the opposite. My underpaintings are intense color. My overpainting is more muted, with the exception of what I'm doing right now, broken color. But for the most part, that is true. Underpainting, bright color, overpainting, muted colors. Isn't that interesting? So I didn't set out to be weird. It has just happened that way over years of evolving. Put some stuff down with a brush. General practice. Put it down, then mess it up. Generally speaking. Yep, more light stuff there. I was watching this Russian man paint on YouTube yesterday, and I honestly had thoughts like, you know what? Just as sometimes I'll break out of my personal mold and do a bunch of abstract paintings, which I enjoy very much, and just as I will periodically bust out of my mold and do super realistic paintings, or I don't know if super realistic is a word. I just happen to have one on my wall right here. Let me show you one fairly realistic painting, some of the automotive paintings. So, you know, this is pretty tight and realistic, right? Clearly, that is not abstract realism. That's just realism. And maybe not hyper-realism, but it's just realism. So it made, as I was watching this man, I thought, you know what? I should do, maybe one time, just for fun, just, what the heck, paint a purdy picture. That's spelled P-U-R-D, purdy picture, P-I-T-C-H-E-R, like a pitcher of water, okay? I don't know why I always feel obligated to mispronounce the word. Partly because I'm just being a jerk, that's true. That would be humblepainter.com. Anyway, maybe I should someday just do a real and big, do a real pretty picture. Just throw everything into it I can think of. You know, beautiful sunset, tons of atmospheric perspective, sun rays, you know, glorious snow dappled mountains, just the whole bit. You know, an eagle soaring overhead, a lake with reflections, birch trees, pine trees, every kind of tree in the world except palm tree, and that's anyway. I did find myself wondering, maybe I should just do one. And that what I do is, if I did that and then somebody was willing to pay, say, the $15,000 price I would put on it, would I be willing to do more of them? Well, heck yeah. What do you think? Honestly, as I was watching this guy, and my wife came in a little bit later and said, I've been watching this guy for a while, and said, you know, it reminds me, it takes me back to a painting I did in high school. Just the process, it just took me back viscerally. It's like, oh man, I know exactly what he's going to do next, because I remember that's what I used to do. Not to say I was as good as he was at age 18, but comparable. I could paint some mess out of some pretty pictures when I was 18. I didn't take any art classes. My dad was an artist, so I took unofficial, you know, not real art classes, just watching him at home. But I didn't take any till I was a senior in high school. And I jumped from, you know, art 0 to art 3 or 4, the highest one I could get into. Okay, arrogant warning, arrogant alarm. So hope David from Quebec's not listening. David, are you listening? You haven't said anything if you are. Hey Richard, I love your cars and the gates on the building on the left. Here or here? On the gates on the building on the right? I do too. Or do you mean this one? Or here? Anyway, thank you. I appreciate that. The painting just got a little bit better, by the way, with some of this light I've added to the road here in the foreground. Anyway, I took art my senior year of high school, and on the last, or next to the last day of school, they assembled everybody in the gym, and they were giving out awards, the school, you know, it's like an awards assembly. And I wasn't expecting, I'd gotten a music award from, but that was in band. They didn't do that in front of the whole school. Anyway, I walked in there, and there was one of my paintings up on the stage with a frame on it. Oh, what the heck? Anyway, they had invented, the art teacher, Mr. Stocker, bless his heart, they inaugurated a new prize. They called it the Senior Art Award. And I was the first recipient, suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, first recipient of the Senior Art Award. How about that? That's a little encouragement, don't you think? You would have grown up to be an artist if you'd gotten that kind of encouragement. And what I say now is that's a lot of truth. I don't know if you know that or not. If you've read any, Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers and stuff like that. A big part of why we end up doing the things we do as adults is because what gets encouraged in our youth. And I'll be the first to admit, in third grade, I won second place in a national poster contest. When I look back at it, sponsored by AAA, when I look back at it now with my adult brain, I have some suspicions about how national it really was. Be that as it may, that's what they said, and I still have the little gold sticker and they sent me $10 for winning second place in a national safety poster contest. My point being, that was a big encouragement to my fledgling art career. And they sent me $10, which I have. Are you familiar with this app? Not app, there's probably an app too, but there's a website called Inflation Calculator. It is quite interesting. You can put in any dollar figure and any year, going back to 1913 or 1873, I don't know what. Anyway, so in 1963, I won $10. And a couple years ago, I checked out to find out how much that was worth now, and it was like $130. Dang. $10 doesn't sound like much, but for a third grader to win $110 or $20 today, that's not insignificant. How about that? No wonder I was happy. Anyway, that was one of the, I think, speaking of encouragement, speaking of Malcolm Gladwell-ish reinforcement, right? That was definitely one of mine. So I got that, and then as a senior in high school, I got this Senior Art Award. Whether I deserved it or not, they made it up for me. And that was admittedly quite encouraging in my art career. Went to college as a freshman and began working in the marketing department of the college on day one of, they knew I was coming somehow, and they gave me a job working in basically graphic design. That was an encouragement. I keep thinking I'm done, folks. And then Uncle 60, you ask a very good question. That is good. I'd like to know. Uncle asks, can anybody do a painting of a president and sell it? That is a really good question. I imagine the answer is yes. But that is a really interesting question. Oh, by the way, I haven't mentioned this today yet. So this being, I think approximately the 18th layer of this painting, I'm no longer using liquid as a medium. I'm using our favorite named product. Whoops, I'm sorry, I've been zoomed in from you guys for a while. I'm so sorry about that. All right. I've been using Neo McGilp, which is classified as evidently as a fast dry, which amazes me. Oh, it says here, okay, it says dries at a moderate rate. There we go. For me, it's a slow dry product because it's way slower, 10 times slower than liquid. Anyway, so I'm using a slow dry medium, again, slow dry, quote unquote, and I am using normal, sorry the paint tube's so dirty, I'm using normal titanium white. Not, I mean this is just for anybody newcomers, normally my titanium is alkyd fast dry. That's what I use in the underpainting. Okay, so again, just to make sure that we're not creating a disaster by having any part of the underpainting drying faster than the overpainting. You want it fast dry underneath, slow dry on top. And that's part of the reason, like you can, that they Are you guys? So it turns out it wasn't my microphone that my monitor that died. It was my microphone that died. So sorry. How long has it been gone? 6 minutes? 2 minutes? Oh boy, sorry about that. Okay, everything I said in the last 5 minutes was worthless. Whoops. All right, do we have sound now? Come on. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Whew. Everything I said in the last few minutes was arrogant, self-serving, insulting. I named names. I did. I'm kidding. I just want to make you feel like you didn't miss anything. Sorry about that. Oh. I've still got bugs to work out in my technology, don't I? I'm so sorry about that. Anyway, I am going to quit. One of the things I just said in the last few minutes was that I'm about 50% chance that I'm finished. I'm going to finish right now. I'm going to quit right now. I'm going to look at it for a few days, and there's about a 50-50 chance that I'll do yet another transparent glaze over the whole thing, and then do one more layer of sparkle. So that's the other thing I was saying after I went no sound, is I was doing sparkle, the lightest lights, the whitest whites. And sorry about that. Yes, and Uncle 60, you could call me. All right, Sydney and Haley Johnson says, wow, Sydney or Haley, whichever it is. David. No, that's hilarious. I did not say anything bad about you, my friend. I was kidding about that. I wasn't really saying anything bad about anybody. Where was I going? Oh, Haley or Sydney, whichever it is. I think so, huh? I don't think so. It's clearly this way. Here's this line, shadow of the car. Anyway, I'm sure it is in some way if you say it is. I don't see it, and it's just an explosion down there in that corner. Oh, Haley, I'm going to answer your question right now. Hope you're still listening. The answer is I don't have an answer. If you really want to start out, one of the simplest ways to do it is to buy a kit, like online or at an art store. You know, this many paints. I am not a enthusiast about any brand of paint. There's all kinds of good brands out there. Start playing. Just play. Have the attitude of a player, a child playing, more than an attitude of an adult studying. Does that make sense? Don't take it seriously. Like which brand should you use? That in my opinion sort of sets you down the wrong path. The path of like trying to be an expert or something. Nope, just have fun and just play and experiment. That's okay. That's my answer. Any brand will do. When people ask me what brand I use, I usually say whatever's on sale. There's a high degree of truth. All right, thanks guys. Again, sorry for the sound problems. I don't know if I'll be back again today. Depends what I end up doing. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Now this is going to take 2 or 3 days to dry, so I really can't do anything on it for a while. But I will look at it. All right, thanks. Bye.